James Kaufman, World News Report today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just entered a geomagnetic storm, and I think we'll be in one for some time. We've hit solar winds over 750 kilometers per second. We're seeing that on ACE and on Discover, and I believe the time travel at that speed between ACE and Discover, 1,000,000 miles out at Lagrange point 1, is about 36 minutes. So I think the next shoe to drop will keep us in a geomagnetic storm, probably a G1. We're looking at our estimated planetary KP index here. This is a ground measurement of a combination of solar winds and plasma. So this is quote-unquote no big deal. We did see 6 hours of a geomagnetic disturbance before this. Now, if we take a look at our college index, which is, well, the sensors are much higher in elevation, they have us up to a G2 geomagnetic storm, and then pop into a G4 geomagnetic storm over the last 3 hours. Based on what we're seeing with our Discover and ACE satellites, that doesn't make much sense. We have no plasma, and we have winds just above 750 kilometers per second. Our Fredericksburg KP index is very quiet. We're just a geomagnetic disturbance over the last 3 hours. And our Boulder KP index shows that we are in a G1 geomagnetic storm. And it does show 3 hours of a geomagnetic disturbance prior to that, looking a lot like our estimated planetary KP index over the last 6 hours. Now the next shoe to drop, that won't happen for about 2 hours and 8 minutes. We'll get that next shoe to drop in about 2 hours and 8 minutes. I'm almost positive, based on what we're seeing on Discover and ACE, that we're going to stay in a geomagnetic storm. This, of course, is from the Earth-facing coronal hole that we'll take a look at soon, along with taking a look at all the sunspots that are not Earth-facing. Scary situation currently on our sun. Now, this has arrived early, in my opinion. We'll take a look at the KP forecast. I believe it was not supposed to hit till the 17th, which does not start until 7 p.m. Central Time here in the U.S. Well, technically, i.e. UTC time. All right, taking a look at NOAA's KP Index Breakdown Forecast for January 16th, 17th, and 18th. Today was supposed to be smooth sailing. It has not been. We're already in a geomagnetic storm, and we are here right now. We had a disturbance before that prior, and we also had a disturbance here. So they didn't get this right. This is going to be from the coronal hole that's Earth facing. It just arrived a little faster than they thought it might. I don't think the winds are outstandingly fast, but it did arrive when it did arrive. I will show you that it is solar winds and not plasma. Now, they expected this to hit tomorrow. I don't know how this is going to play out. They also have an impact of a light CME on the 18th, and this is going to play out after lunch on the 18th. Well, this should play out overnight. Well, this might be hitting currently. I have to keep an eye on this. It is a large coronal hole and should actually expel more than 6 hours of coronal hole high-speed winds. So, kind of strange how they would only guesstimate 6 hours of this. Over to GO, Solar Ultraviolet Imager goes 1,995 angstroms. You can see that coronal hole has been Earth-facing for some time here. We have a lot of sunspots coming around. We'll take a look at them. Looks like just a few, but there's several that are very close to each other. You can see that that coronal hole looks fairly significant. It did, well, open up as it turned to be Earth-facing, but this does look like a coronal hole that would expel high-stream solar winds for more than 6 hours. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. I think that they got it wrong as far as actually 24 hours off, which is a pretty, well, not a great forecast, right? Now, please notice that on this model, the WSA Inland Prediction Center that NOAA paid millions of dollars to update last year, and where over 100 people work, they didn't account for any type of uptick in solar winds, even though they knew the coronal hole would be Earth-facing during this time period. And this was put together yesterday based on how it's set up. So they guessed that there would be no bump in solar winds on the 16th or 17th, although they have a huge bump come around the 20th when that lineup occurs. I can't wait to see what we're in for. Right. The total electron count over the U.S. has really intensified. The last few hours, you can see that it's down here near 0 to 10. And as we go into that solar storm, you can see that we pop up into the 50 to 60 range. A lot of electrons hitting U.S. citizens currently. All right, we're looking at real-time solar wind from Discover. They say it takes about 46 minutes, but they only have it at 5:41. You can see this huge drop that's just occurred to 5:41. It was just at 760. Another unexplained huge drop here. And then it was just at 763. An hour ago it was at 765. So the next shooter drop is definitely going to be a geomagnetic storm, just based on these 2 points here and this point here that all occurred within that window where that KP index block, 3-hour block, will be expressing itself. Again, slower winds. We were about 36 minutes to Earth from Discover. Now we're 46. I'm expecting this to jump right back up into the 700s because we've seen it do so twice already. We'll look at plasma. There is no plasma. This is not a filament eruption. This is not a coronal mass ejection from a solar flare. Solar density 0.51. That's centimeters cubed, and there is no plasma hitting Earth whatsoever. This is solely having to do with the coronal hole that's Earth facing. Heading over to NASA, HMI intensogram. We have one departing sunspot group. It shouldn't bother us. And it looks like we have 7 other sunspots. 4343 looks fairly complex, although they have it as simple still. But we do have a Delta class sunspot capable of X-flaring, 4341. It's the big one we've been watching, along with its sister sunspots, 4342 and 4344, that is just forming here. We have trailing sunspots, but they're just not as complex as our Delta class sunspot, 4341, that we believe is responsible for the 2 X-class solar flares, one on the backside and the one coming around the limb, mostly eclipsed by the limb, that registered an M3.3 on our GOES satellite. Taking a real quick look at our GOES satellite and the X-ray flux. Biggest story of the day is a C6.7 flare here, Earth facing. Could have created a small or light CME, and we saw that that brought us into a G2 geomagnetic storm last time. So nothing to play with. What else do we have here? Not a lot, folks. We have some of these flares that occurred early in the week that could be geo-effective here, but the forecast doesn't say that they're going to be. I will keep you updated, however. Now, we do have a 10% chance of having an X-class solar flare today, and one could pop off at any moment. Even a large M-class could pop off at any moment. All right, let's get down and dirty with our real-time solar wind satellites. By the way, our GOES satellites orbit at 223 miles above Earth, whereas these orbit at 1,000,000 miles, these being Discover and ACE, above Earth, and it still only takes this solar weather 35 to 50 minutes to get here, and this is not extraordinarily fast solar winds. So we've been in some strong solar winds here at 766, and obviously these measurements, 743, all brought about that KP1 geomagnetic storm. We're up and down, but we're really back, and this went over 800 to 801. And I believe that this is going to be enough to, create that next KP index stick with at least a G1 geomagnetic storm. They might even go G2 on it, okay? There is no plasma involved in any of this. There's a missing hour here. I don't know why. Shields are tilted south, which is a bad deal. And anytime the red line goes below zero here, it's a bad situation. That means our shields are down. Regularly, if they are being hit by space weather, they try to prop themselves up. It's kind of like the calluses on your feet. Obviously, if you don't use your feet, they don't have any calluses on them. You can't really walk and run barefoot. But if the shields are being hit all the time, as you can see here, they do try to pop up and protect Earth. If they were down, this would be a much worse experience. We could have seen, a G3 or 4, G4 like we did on the college index there. Temperatures are just above normal. No plasma, heavy solar winds up to just over 800 kilometers per second on Discover, which should take about 35 minutes to get here. ACE is our other real-time solar wind satellite, also at Lagrange point 1, 1,000,000 miles above Earth. It's our older of the two. Discover was its replacement, although it's still been very useful. You can see when the red line goes below zero, shields are down. We have a predominantly southern facing shield, which is bad news. And plasma has never gone over 10 centimeters cubed. You can see they don't even have space for it to. Solar winds have reached over 700 here, over 700 here, the 750s here, and now we know we're up to over 800 right here, and it looks like we're back up in the high 7s, perhaps 775. Currently, temperature is above normal, but not extraordinarily hot, if you will. Plasma is non-significant. I think we mentioned that. In summary, we are in a geomagnetic storm caused by this Earth-facing coronal hole. We're seeing wind speeds over 800 kilometers per second. We do expect a continuation of this geomagnetic storm, and we will keep you updated. Please give us a thumbs up if you'll remember to. Please subscribe if you have not. And always remember, anything's possible. Bizarro world.